Today, my guest on the Extraordinary Drummer Show, I'm really excited to have. He's a musician's musician, a drummer's drummer, named after Billie Holiday, the son of Roy Haynes, awesome songwriter. Will you help me welcome Craig Holiday Haynes? Hey, welcome to the Extraordinary Drummer Show.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Before I get started here, let me start here. You're from New York?
I'm from New York, born in Brooklyn, New York, raised up in Queens in New York City.
Yeah, let's go forward. Named after Billie Holiday, the holiday in your name is after Billie Holiday?
That's right. And it's kind of weird because actually, okay, you know where the term cut and paste comes from?
No.
So I have the original Western Union telegraph that my mother sent to my father. He was on the road with Sarah Vaughan when I was born, and they hadn't decided on my middle name. So she just you call the operator, tell the operator what you want the message to say. The operator would type it out, cut it out, and paste it on another paper and send it. So it was sent to my father in care of Sarah Vaughan, and it just says Craig's Holiday and has my birth weight and time. So I always wondered, what does Sarah Vaughan think about you naming your son, your first child, after my competition? I never asked her, I never did get to ask her. I met her many times, but I never asked her about that.
Wow. Your father is Roy Haynes, the legend, the icon, Roy Haynes. What was that growing up like? Not from the drummer side, but just from how awesome he is.
It was awesome. No, he'd be on magazines, on magazine covers, like Downbeat magazine. He was named one of the best dressed men in America in Esquire magazine, along with Clark Gable, Fred Astaire, Miles Davis. He and Miles Davis were the only two blacks. Well, you got Clark Gable, Fred Astaire, Cary Grant. And this is in the middle of the Civil Rights era, like 1963, I believe, or 1960, I believe it was.
When you was coming up, I'm sure you did you get to hang around all of the great musicians? Tell me some of them, and what was it like being a little kid and here's the greats walking in your house?
Well, John Coltrane used to come to the house, and they used to make the kids go in the basement because John was pretty serious. Sometimes he came with Eric Dolphy. I remember them coming together. Eric would come by himself sometimes. Eric was probably my first male adult friend that wasn't related to me. But the transition to drums came much later, even though I always messed around on the drums. And I remember my father coming home one day and my mother saying, when you're not here, he's playing the drums and he sounds good. But when I was younger, I was probably 6 years old. He tried to show me the basic ride pattern, jazz ride pattern, dang to the dang to the dang. And I couldn't hear it. I just couldn't, it wasn't happening. And I remember seeing the frustration on his face, like, oh, he's not gonna be a drummer. So I never played the drums in front of him until I was 19 or 12, my 20th birthday. I said, Dad, I'm gonna play the drums. I started playing African percussion first. And then I said, I'm going to start playing the drum set. And he said, okay, I will give you a set of drums, but I'm not going to take you by the hand. You get it the same way I got it.
You actually started playing at age 20, huh?
Playing the drums. Right?
Yeah, playing the drums, yeah.
Right. My first band had electric piano. And my first band as a leader and a drummer. In the band, I had Bob Nellums on piano, and Bob Nellums at the same time was playing with Charles Mingus. And I was, 19 or 20, 21, something like that. So that was pretty amazing. I had electric bass, piano, and guitar, and drums.
I read somewhere where you turned down a James Brown gig. You turned down playing with James Brown?
I turned down the James Brown gig. I had just joined Sun Ra, the Sun Ra Orchestra, Sun Ra's. And at that point, I was very adamant about playing jazz. I didn't want to play commercial music anymore.
Tell me, how did you get that gig with Sun Ra?
Noel Scott, our saxophone player, who's still with the band now, said, Craig, you know, you should come and play with Sun Ra. Sun Ra, I don't know if you're hip to Sun Ra, was amazing. Sun Ra influenced, if it wasn't for Sun Ra, there would be no Earth, Wind and Fire. And that was confirmed to me by Maurice White.
What did you glean from Sun Ra that you use today in your playing?
Good question. Actually, I don't get a chance to do it that much because I haven't been playing, I won't say experimental music, but I haven't been playing the type of music that is as open. Sun Ra taught us to play. He said, anybody can play what you know, but play what you don't know. Try to play what you don't know.
Let me talk a little bit about your credits. Your credits, I mean, I just got a few of them here. I mean, some of my favorite, I'm talking about like as a kid, as a young man, as an adult. The credits reads like a who's who. Freddie, Hubbard, Gloria Lynn, Lionel Hampton, and it's diverse, even in the years and the generations. Tony Bennett, Stanley Jordan, Marcus Miller, the Allman Brothers. But I want to talk about this one. I'll come back to some of those. Eddie Palmieri, that was my dude, man.
Man, Eddie's so great. Eddie's so great. It's funny you say that. I was just thinking about the gig I did with Eddie. I only did one gig with Eddie. It was a special, he was having a weekly thing where you have different people come and play with him. So it was at the Blue Note in New York. And people seemed to be happy with what I played, but I myself wasn't. I was happy with what I played, but my reading wasn't as sharp. And I got the music right before we went on. So, but it was cool. It came out cool, but Eddie's great. Playing with Eddie is amazing. And he has great percussionists. He has two great percussionists, and everybody, the bass player, everybody is great in that band. And Eddie himself, I mean, come on.
I love Eddie, man. Find Your All-Stars. I love all of those guys, man. Celia and Johnny Pacheco. What was it like working with Lionel Hampton, and what did you pick up from him?
The first few times I played with Lionel Hampton was amazing. The first time I played with him, it was he just came and jammed with. I used to play at Barry Harris's place 5 years. I ran 2 jam sessions, but one day Lionel Hampton just came and we all played, and he was about 80 years old then, and he called the tempo fast tempo, and he soloed. He must have played. It seemed like an 80 chorus solo. I mean, solo at the chorus, at the chorus, at the chorus. He just kept going on. I'm like, man, is this old man ever gonna stop? It's like, so the next time I played with him was a special event, and he asked me after the gig. He said, you know, I want you to show me that thing you do. There's a thing I do between the bass drum and the tom-toms. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he said, I want you to show me. He told me exactly what it was, and I was surprised because he was a killing drummer. And I was like, you're asking me to show you that? And then not long after that, he asked me to join the band. So I did some gigs, and then, but at that point, he had a stroke, and I didn't know that he couldn't play until we got on the gig. And when it was time for him to really play, he wasn't playing. It was like, you know, he's like with one hand or like, you know. So it broke my heart. And the drummer that had been with him for years just wasn't on these gigs. And I said, well, where's, you know, we call him Wally Gator. So where's Wally Gator? And he says, oh, well, he just didn't know about these gigs. I guess nobody seemed to know. And he had been with Lionel Hampton 7 years. I said, well, I can't just take his gig like that. You know, if he doesn't know, and I don't know what's going on between him and Lionel, but I turned down the gig. I did some gigs with him, but I mean, he wanted me to actually stay in the band. So I didn't stay in the band. I left after a couple of gigs.
Let me throw a couple more names at you. Freddie Hubbard. What was that scene like?
Freddie, Freddie only played percussion with. I recorded with Freddie. I played with him. He came to my jam sessions and we played a few times, but on the recording, my father was recording with him. And he just asked me to play some percussion. So that's all I did with Freddie in terms of recording long term. Nothing long term.
This is way off the meter from other stuff you've done, but the Allman Brothers.
Allman Brothers, again, the same thing. I only played with the Allman Brothers once. They had two drummers, J-Mo, I can't remember the other drummer's name. Well, both of those drummers were in the band. They weren't going anywhere. They weren't going anywhere. They just asked me to come and sit in. I said, okay, great. But we played the Beacon Theater, which was some awesome. I wish I had seen it because they record everything, but I never did see it.
As I listen to your playing and watch your playing, I can hear all those different genres of music in it. Mm. I mean, when I listened to your playing and watched it, I saw there are some times when the good Lord above just give you your own thing. I saw that in it's got rock, it's got blues, it's got avant-garde, it's got so many elements on it. Sometimes you're doing a roll and you just barely get back to one, like a jerk like that. How, what, when, where? Explain it for us.
That's not easy to explain because it's only recently that I realized that, well, one thing I remember hearing my father say, as long as everybody in the band knows where one is, then, you know, if you come off a little early or a little late, everybody knows where one is. So as long as you come back in where you're supposed to come in, you're cool. Now, if you don't come in where you're supposed to come in, that's another story. But yeah, you have to know where one is. And then trying to, not to bring the music back, but to bring, to add it's another flavor. If you come in before or after a beat, you're adding almost another dimension. So sometimes it just happens naturally. Sometimes you're intentionally doing it. For the most part, I'm trying to intentionally do that. Sometimes it's not intentional. It just happens, and just you know where to come back in. But yeah, that's something I probably got from Sun Ra, and my father too. He's good with that.
I heard a lot of, if I would say, Mr. Roy Haynes in there. That abstract stuff, you know, kind of like unique and abstract. Let me ask you this one. I saw a lot of syncopation in there, but it wasn't like a David Garibaldi or like tight. It was like, and I was like, I'd have to drink a half a pint of whiskey to play like that.
That's funny you say that. Yeah, I got that mostly from Sun Ra, about playing what you don't know. And you have to, the syncopation comes in playing, I don't know, I don't even know how to explain that. Playing what you don't know, but making it work, making it fit in place. You know, there's a way to do it. And there's a time to do it. There's a time not to do that. So you have to know the difference, you know.
Before I get to talking about having the nerve to do it and the patience to do it, what is a way to do it, and what is the patience that it or the know-how to do it?
Patience. The patience comes from having a command of the music, a command of your instrument. You have to have a command of your instrument, because if you don't have the command of your instrument and yourself, I mean, especially for the drummer, it's not just the instrument, because you got 4 limbs you're working with. So the independence is important. But like, if you ever notice, like sometimes my father doesn't play his hi-hat at all. And sometimes he'll play a crash. Like most drummers, for the most part, most drummers, when they play a crash, they're playing the bass drum at the same time. it sounds good sometimes just with just the cymbal, no bass drum. So you have to know, some of it is inherent, some of it is, I always try to play musical. A lot of drummers I notice have great technique, but they're not playing musical. A lot of drummers are playing great drums, but they're not playing with the music or what the music commands. So knowing the difference there it's a matter of musicality and a matter of inherent perception.
Let's talk a little bit more drumming stuff. Endorsements. What are you doing? Drums? What drums are you playing? Cymbals, so forth.
Man, I'm playing Yamaha drums. Zildjian. I've been with Zildjian now, man, since '95, or no, earlier than that. No, yeah, it's been early. It's long. I've been with Zildjian for a while now. And I also endorse Vic Firth sticks. I don't have a head endorsement, but Remo has been talking to me. I was talking with Remo, and I just never finalized anything. And so Vic Firth, Zildjian, Yamaha. That's it officially.
Craig, how do you want your legacy to be told, to be said, to be viewed?
Good question. I would just like to be known as a guy who had respect and love and wanted to make the world a better place with music and with whatever I did. You know, I made a lot of mistakes when I was young. You know, I did a lot of things I shouldn't have done, but you know, that's way behind me. And my life I've been blessed. So I would like to be known to as somebody who realized the blessings and tried to bless as well. I mean, I can't ask for more than that. I mean, I've been lucky. I've been lucky to have traveled around the world. I have friends and fans all around the world. And that's a blessing in itself, just to have people that respect and admire you in any place, even on your own block, let alone the rest of the world. So I'm happy with what I'm doing, but there's so much more to be done. So I would like to be known as a guy who tried to do what the Creator wants me to do.
Hey, brother. Nice, nice. Craig, we have a thing on the show that we call Word of Advice, where I actually, you probably have seen it, where I asked the drummers if they would leave a parting word of advice for the for the young guys, for the up and comers, and even the guys at the next level, but that are trying to get traction in this game, in this industry? Would you leave them a word of advice, please?
The first thing I say is love what you do. Don't do it just for the money or the glamour of, to be seen or whatever. Drummers like to be seen and heard, but love what you do and love the music. Not just the drumming. You have to love the music and think about it helping the world. Don't just think about it just for yourself. Don't be selfish. Think about music. As Art Blakey used to say, music soothes the savage beast. And if the music is good, if the rhythms are good, and you're not killing it, over killing it, I should say, it helps people. Just to give you a quick example, I was doing a gig in Amsterdam or somewhere over there, and after the gig, a young couple came out. After the gig, I'm going to the car, to the bus or whatever it was, and I'm in the parking lot, and this young couple says, "Oh, excuse me, we just loved your playing, your music. We just got married recently, and your drumming made us better people." I'm like, that's all I live for. If I'm helping somebody feel better, be a better person, that's everything. That's the best compliment I could imagine. So think of it as you're helping to make the world a better place by playing some good music. So my advice is love what you're doing. That love should spread out to the rest of the world. Love it so much that you have to make it so good that you'd be doing a disservice to the world if you don't play it good. That's my advice.
Absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. And I love that quote from Art Blakey, "Soothes the savage beast." What do you think your father thinks of how it turned out with you, knowing that when he first saw you play, he wasn't sure if you was.
Hey, man, I'm writing a book. All my friends want me to write a book because there's so much stuff I've been through and have seen and know. And my father, he's happy. I spoke with him yesterday. He's happy with what I'm doing. What can I say? Especially since he figured I wasn't going to do it. I mean, he forbid me from playing my very first gig, even though I had been rehearsing with the band, playing saxophone, for a month or two. After school, on the weekends, we rehearse. But then when it came, and they had flyers up all over the city or all over Queens for this gig. And then he was out of town. He told my mother, he said, "No, tell him he can't go do the gig." I'm like, whoa. This is my first gig, my first professional gig. So, I guess having gone through that, he probably doesn't remember that. And I never would bring it up, just out of respect, just try to make the old man feel bad. I wouldn't do that. But he also persuaded me to quit playing with Sun Ra. And I quit at the time when Sun Ra was just reaching his peak. When I quit, right after that summer, Philly Joe Jones, Billy Higgins had done that current album. Philly Joe Jones did the tour in Europe, and I would have been there. It would have been me and Philly Joe Jones and another. There would have been 3 drummers, but I didn't go. My father persuaded me to quit, but I still kept on. Anyway, I kept on. So, it's one thing to be the underdog, but then to have people block you and then you still get there. It's like when you see somebody on the football field and they get blocked and they still make it to the touchdown. Hey, you gotta give them credit, right?
Craig, let me say, thank you so very much for being on the Extraordinary Drummer Show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Cheron. Thank you.
I hope you had a good time.
Yes, indeed.
Hey, man, would you help us wave goodbye to all the audience?
Oh, man. Hey, everybody, support Cheron.
And would you tell your father we said hello?
Certainly. I'll show this to him at some point.
Yeah.
New York.
Thank you so very much for being on the show.